Guilty until proven innocent. That is very much the feeling I get over this Rupert Lowe and reform situation. So obviously lots of people, countless people have asked me in comments and emails to talk to you about this in a video. So here it is. Now, just to caveat, I don't like talking about ongoing investigations and things like that when nothing has actually been decided and concluded, proved or disproved or otherwise. But lots of people have asked me to do that, and I feel it's right to offer some sort of thought and comment. And just as we get started, I am an independent creator here. I am not paid nor engaged nor involved with any news company, any political party, and any other company whatsoever. I am completely independent. I choose what to say, I choose what to talk about, and beyond restrictions in law and with my regulator, I have no restrictions on what I say. I choose what I say myself, and it is all completely independent. So please do subscribe to the channel to support me in that regard, and I thank you for doing that. Now, Nigel Farage for The Telegraph says that he acknowledges that the public does not like political parties that engage in constant infighting. More about that in a second. And that other Reform MPs, he said, did their best to keep the lid on a series of internal disagreements with Rupert Lowe. And with great respect, that's exactly what should happen. All these things should remain internal and not spill out into the public domain as they have in the last 24 hours or so. But Nigel Farage goes on and says containment strategies invariably fail, and blamed Rupert Lowe for sparking disunity by unloading a barrage of criticism against his leadership. But that does raise a question, which has been raised by others, so I'm commenting on that which has been raised by others, as to whether this is just a strange coincidence that Rupert Lowe did raise some criticism against the leadership of Nigel Farage. But I did watch what was being talked about here. I won't repeat those comments here, but I will say that I don't really agree that that was a full barrage of criticism. I think that was just comment and should not really have any bearing on any of this at all. But it seems that it does, because it's appeared in this article here. But Nigel Farage is right in the sense that the public do not like this sort of infighting in a party that they support. So I did a couple of polls to that effect to see what people really thought about it. So the way that I phrased this poll was, will removing the whip from Rupert Lowe harm Reform UK's chance of success? The whip just means sort of being suspended from the party. If you have the whip removed, you're suspended either temporarily or permanently from the party. So again, just to say, we don't know if this is temporary or permanent yet. Maybe those inside the party know, but we don't know whether this is temporary or permanent or not. But in response to that, I had, and I humbly, I thank you all for voting on my polls. I get good numbers on these polls. 30,000 of you voted on this poll. 78% of you, so a reasonably overwhelming majority, believe that this will harm Reform UK's chance of success by removing the whip from Rupert Lowe. That is, of course, because he is a popular MP. He works very hard. He's done a lot of hard work to uncover lots of detailed statistics and is working hard for the people of, well, the entire UK, really, not just his constituents in Great Yarmouth. So I would have to offer my public support here for Rupert Lowe, because I see him as a very hard-working MP. If you want to know a little bit more about his personality, as I did, I invited him on the channel here to talk to you so that you can all form a better opinion of him, and you can find that video linked below. And I did a similar poll on X, if I can find it, which said exactly the same thing, exactly the same wording, fewer votes but a higher majority, which tends to be the case with these statistical things. Over 4,000 people voted on that poll, and 89% take the same view. So overwhelmingly, people do take this view that it would harm Reform's success by removing the whip from Rupert Lowe. That's obviously not to say, the party's not going to collapse, it's not going to go away, but a lot of people, if you read the room, as I like to call it, and read the comments, as an aside, as a YouTuber, when you read the comments through and through, you get a sense of the room, what people are feeling. If the overwhelming majority of the comments are saying the same thing, it gives you an idea of what the vast majority of people think. There are always a few outliers and strongly disagree, but On occasion, if I get the overwhelming majority of people disagreeing with what I say, I would humbly say that, well, perhaps I'm wrong, because sometimes I will be wrong. Of course, no one's right all the time. But what I do take issue with, and I mean this with great respect to all the MPs, including Rupert Lowe at Reform, this statement here very much feels, and this is the feeling I get from the room, that it is guilty until proven innocent, because it's been suspended temporarily or permanently, we don't know, on what they say are allegations of bullying in the workplace. Now, being the lawyer about this doesn't make clear whether those allegations are against him personally, or what exactly is supposed to have done. And I don't believe that this statement should have been made public in this way before a full investigation. And if it is with the police, then for all the reasons I don't talk about specifics of something, again, I don't think they should have been made public. That is just my humble view. You can disagree with that if you wish. Reform, obviously welcome to disagree with that if they wish, but they made the statement. I don't think this should have been made a public statement. I think what really should have happened is the investigation should have happened first, and then they make a decision. Because from what I understand from the KC who's been instructed at what can only be great expense to the party to conduct this investigation, and if there's been serious allegations, then it's right that some investigation is done, etc. I think that should be done before any suspension and certainly before any public statement, etc. But by the by, but from what I understand from this King's Counsel that's been instructed, and I will bow and defer to their knowledge and expertise close to this investigation, Rupert says that the KC, and Rupert, let's just be clear about this, Rupert would not quote the KC words without them actually being said. So the KC, according to Rupert, said the party was precipitous, which just means acting quickly and carelessly and dangerously. The party was precipitous to state that these allegations had been made without also saying that the party's commissioned an independent investigation, and the investigation has not yet got underway to look at all the evidence and evaluate its veracity. And in other comments by Rupert Lowe, he says that the KC has repeatedly said that there is no credible evidence against him, that all parliamentary procedures have been followed, HR have been fully supportive, and obviously he doesn't agree with these allegations. And so my views, well, I stress I don't like to comment on other people's and parties' disagreements and things like that, but because it was done in a public forum, I feel that it's somewhat justified to do that. I mean, if I knew things in the background but it hadn't been made public and people asked me to talk about it, I wouldn't do that unless it was so important and there was an anonymous but valid and verified source, then I might talk about it. But because this has been carried out in a public forum, I feel somewhat the need to talk about it because a lot of people have asked me about it. A lot of people have asked my thoughts about it. And I think that it was extremely premature to make these allegations known publicly before an investigation, certainly before any conclusions of an investigation. It would have been very different if there'd been an investigation and it seems that there is a case to answer and it's moving forward, then perhaps make the statement, or certainly if those allegations had been founded and at least in some degree true, then make the statement, then suspend the whip, etc., then that might be justified. I think all of that was just premature. And I'm humbled to see that GB News even changed a headline yesterday because it boldly said that Rupert Lowe did certain things, and I responded to say they ought to correct the headline because although the article would save them from defamation, the headline is still disingenuous. So in fact they did change the headline. I'm not saying that is definitively because of my comment. A lot of people seem to think it was. Possibly it was, I don't know, but I can't have been the only one that said, hang on a minute, change the headline, but I was certainly one of them that said change the headline, and they changed the headline, because a lot of these things then tend to get out of control. This is the one thing, one of the reasons I've sort of pivoted, if you like, to talk about politics, to talk about news, to talk about current events and things like that, is because many of us see different headlines, different news stories, pushing and poking you in different directions and guiding you, or even in some cases outright misleading you into what to think. You read a thing and therefore that's what you think. And this is how many of these, let's call them in general, you understand, I'm not saying this is what Reform's doing to Rupert Lowe here, but in general, when the media wants to take somebody out, they do what they call a character assassination. They pull up different allegations and arguments and things that they say this party's done wrong, and then nobody believes them. It's an age-old trick. It's been done for decades, and they detract from the credibility of the person, and then suddenly people don't like that person anymore. That is what they do as a character assassination. So when they decide they don't like somebody, they do headlines and they do articles, and all of this comes out. And to be fair to some of the news companies, all they are doing sometimes is reporting on the news and reporting on the reporting, and it's all very meta. But the more times you read something, the more times you are likely to believe it. The more you are likely to believe it. And that is why this is not a sponsor. That is why when I choose companies to partner with on this channel, I choose very carefully. I choose companies that I genuinely think are going to help you. So, for example, I partner with companies for security for your devices, and I partner with NordVPN. If it's security for your data, I partner with Incogni. There are discounts available. I'll put the links below. And for news, this is me talking in the round here. It's not a sponsored video. In the round, I talk about if you want to get both sides of a story on something, if there's a big story blowing up, there are always two different sides. You remember my story on Meta removing its fact-checking just recently. And it was probably the most split discussion and reporting I've ever seen. One describing it as restoring free speech, and the other, well, you can use your imagination. But I partnered with Ground News for that one, because Ground News brings all these headlines together and shows you left-leaning outlets and right-leaning outlets, and then somewhere more in the middle. And it gives you an idea of the flavor of this thing. But when something is so nuanced, and there's a discount for that in the description as well, by the way. But when something is so specific, niche, directed at a specific individual, and a 24-hour, really probably the initial blow-up is a 24-hour news cycle, I feel it's right to give you my thoughts on this, that I think that this was a premature step. I do think it will damage Reform's credibility in the way that it handles these disputes, because a lot of people, and this is me being completely objective, by the way, you've heard me on this channel criticize Labour, you've heard me criticize Conservative, and then doubtless some people in the comments say you've never criticized Conservative. Well, I have, because I've said governments past and present have not solved certain problems. They've been around for over a decade or a couple of decades sometimes, and that obviously incorporates the Conservative Party. And so my criticism here, with great respect, is that I think Reform have acted too quickly, that their posts and Nigel Farage article has said that it's justified, they needed to act and so on. I think without having done an investigation, without concluded that investigation, I don't think the statement should have been made public. I certainly don't think the whip should have been suspended. And I personally think that they will earn a lot of respect and credibility by acknowledging that they acted quickly, probably too quickly, and probably reverse course on that. It's just my view, my objective view. I just so everyone knows, I am not a member of any political party. I'll criticize them all equally when I think they've done something wrong. And in this case, respectfully, I think this was a step too early and too far. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know a lot of you support Rupert Lowe. You've supported the work that he's done. He has my support from what I've learned about him from the video that he so kindly came onto my channel. We chatted for, I think, nearly 45 minutes. Do go and watch that video, form your views of Rupert Lowe. But having read all the comments in the round, I think the overwhelming view from the public is that this was too far and too soon. And more generally, I think Reform was a party that gave the public a third option, because many people talk about the uniparty, and for those of you with respect that are not sure what we're talking about, there is really the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. A lot of people describe as very much the same thing, and they've switched around for many, many years, but a lot of people describe it as just being one big party, and you vote for one or the other. And in my view, Reform really gave the public a genuine alternative, and including an alternative to the Lib Dems and the Green Party and so on, gave the public a genuine alternative to vote for a party and support a party that will put the rights of British citizens first and the traditional values of British culture first, without it being extreme right wing. Now, of course, some people will say that it is, but there's always somebody to say that anything other than agreeing with Labour is a right-wing view. There are some people that say that. But in my view, reform is not that. My view of reformers, I've seen them grow, I've seen them huge success in a very short space of time. And again, love him or hate him, credit to Nigel Farage for growing such a party. And it is not just in the last 10 minutes. Nigel Farage has worked for decades in politics. He's a very seasoned politician. He does know what he's doing. And he's grown this party to a genuine party that people love and support. I think on this occasion, I think it is better to reconsider what they've done with Rupert Lowe. That is my objective view. With no agenda. I have no agenda. I am not a member of Reform, just to make that clear. I've thus far, at the very least, I am not a member of any political party. I give my views objectively. I've received countless invitations to different news companies across the spectrum, and timing and my schedule has made those difficult thus far. But I also think the upshot of not having done those has made me remain independent. And I have no media company behind me. I have nobody telling me what to say, nobody guiding what I can say beyond the obvious, obviously, not saying things that will get me into legal trouble, or not saying things that I shouldn't be saying in accordance with my, upholding the reputation of the bar and so on. But when it comes to political speech, that is a freedom of expression which is very, very strongly protected. Even my regulator, I've had complaints to my regulator, but even my regulator will say, this is political free speech. I have the right to say what I choose to say, particularly when it comes to politics, political views, and so on. So if people disagree with my views, that's absolutely fine. But I am free to say those. So I, for one, hope that they resolve this with Rupert Lowe, because I see Reform as a party that gives the public a genuine third option. And it may well change the course of history in this country. And I think it will do so much better with Rupert Lowe on board. Let me know what you think. Let your views be known. Do subscribe to the channel because, as I say, I am independent, and I thank you for watching me as an independent legal commentator, and I suppose to some degree a political commentator. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.